Well, it's Friday. We made it. And happy Think Good Day. We were supposed to go live yesterday, so my apologies to those of you who were looking for me and I wasn't available. And that won't happen again. I've been talking a lot about boundaries, and unfortunately yesterday I had a crisis that I had to deal with in my workplace, and I wanted to make sure that I was fresh and ready for all of you today. So today we're talking about where you are on your journey. Again, here's Chase, my lovely King Cavachon Bichon mix, who he's very royal, so he's here. So we're really talking today about where we are on our leadership journey. And I've been having an interesting conversation with a number of people about how you define yourself as a leader. Do you consider yourself to be an emerging leader or an established leader? And this is a very important question when you're thinking about how to develop yourself professionally. So I really wanted today to just give you a little bit of knowledge into where you might fall in the definition of either emerging or established leader. So a couple things do you think you are an emerging leader? Well, you're an emerging leader if the following things might be true for you. The first one is that you've been chosen by an organization that you're working for to lead a team or a project, even though you believe your gifts are in a functional expertise area. And you haven't been officially anointed yet as a leader of a team. So in the nonprofit world, a lot of times this happens when there's change, and somebody who's been a really good practitioner, like a case manager or a finance person, decides that they're going to take an opportunity to maybe lead a big project, or maybe the board has anointed you as somebody who they would like to see as taking on more of a leadership role. So you haven't been in a leadership role, you've been functionally exceptional, and you're considering moving into a leadership role. You would be defined then as an emerging leader. Another definition of an emerging leader would be somebody who is creating a mindset and making a choice to move from a functional role, like a development role, to a leadership role. Maybe you're looking for a new job. Maybe you're looking to become a leader at an organization in a development function versus a major gifts officer. So this would be you're seeking it out versus somebody seeking you out. And you still need to consider yourself an emerging leader at that time. In the past, I've written about, and you might have seen a blog about the imposter syndrome. And I literally feel like I deal with clients and the imposter syndrome every day. So the imposter syndrome is a place where emerging leaders are not quite confident enough to step out into the level of leadership mindset that they need to be at. So they're worried that because they're new in a role, new in a function, that people might think that they're not ready to lead. And so if you fall into this category of the imposter syndrome, you would be looking for leadership development around an emerging leader situation. I always love to tell the story that in 1986, this will date me, I went back to work at Muhlenberg College, my alma mater, in a student affairs role. And I was asked to serve as an interim director of residence life. And I literally was 22 or 23 years old. I had gone and gotten a master's degree. I was newly married at that time. And I came into Muhlenberg, and I was so excited. I had stayed in great touch with the dean of students. And so I was really excited about this new role. And I clearly remember to this day sitting at my first presidential leadership team level meeting and being across from the dean of students, and I should say the dean of the college, who was an academic. And all of a sudden, I could only think back to the Steve Martin movie, Father of the Bride. And as that dean was talking to me, I felt literally like pigtails were popping out of my head. Like, what am I doing here? Who asked me to be here? And I'm not ready to be here. And if anybody figures out I really don't know what I'm doing, it's not going to be good. So at that point in my life, I was definitely in a place of the imposter syndrome. And I definitely wish that I had somebody to be on a leadership path with at that particular time. So when you're a new leader, doesn't mean that that's related to age. When you're a newly experienced leader, you might have been in a different sector. So I have friends who have gone from the profit sector to the nonprofit sector, and you're just getting your feet wet in that sector. That would be a good place for you to develop and to learn some things from an emerging leader point of view. And in Think Good Leadership language, that also means really developing some of your skills. That might be things like delegation, conflict resolution, communications, learning your own thinking styles. So those would be considered emerging leader functions. And how do you know when you're an established leader? Those of us who are now established leaders almost don't like to think about this because sometimes people call us seasoned leaders. Sometimes people call us older leaders. So we may not buy any of these terms, but we are definitely established leaders when we have been in a sector for a fair amount of years, when we've started to manage larger size staffs, when we're expected to lead an organization forward to the next level, and when we know that we really need to hone a different set of skills. And so why would you work on your leadership development if you're an established leader? Well, I think one of the things that happens to those of us that are established leaders is we can get stuck. We can get stuck in a mindset of the past. Well, this is the way we've always done it. And when people challenge us to do things new ways, it might just not feel good. So we have to work on how we deal with change. And speaking of change, for established leaders, one of the biggest things we need to work on when we're an established leader and we're moving into this next phase of our leadership journey, we really need to think about how we're managing change. And change for established leaders can come from creating a succession plan and preparing for a succession plan. It can come from developing new partnerships. As you've gotten better and you've developed your vision within your organization, you might be looking for new ways to partner. You might even be as long enough on the path to think about things like mergers. And when we are really considering moving our organization from one level of service and function to a different level of partnership and collaboration, we really do need to consider building a different skill set. And this is where the work that Think Good is going to be offering might be helpful to you. Also, I like to think that sometimes we get to a place where we just get recommitted to learning. We have been in a job for a while, in a career for a while, and we really want to keep our brain going. And research certainly tells us that continuous learners are just more well-rounded people. So those are some of the things that distinguish emerging from established leaders. Also want to throw out that for all of us, leadership, continuous leadership education is important. And even though this is what I teach and what I share with other people, I am on a continuous journey about learning leadership. And that's because I always want to make sure that whatever I'm doing, and whether you're an emerging leader or an established leader, this holds true. Do my personal vision, values line up with the organizations that I'm working with? Because when they do, I get a sense of alignment. And when I'm in alignment with my own personal values and organizational values, I just feel like I'm really giving my best. So that's a part of the journey. So you can look at Think Good Leadership as a place where you can really, really hone in on what those personal core values are and how they work in your transition in your organization. You also get a chance to reset your personal compass. And I think this is extremely important. It ties into the values piece of things, but working on things like creating your own mission statement, your life mission statement, some of the things that happen as you go along this leadership continuum can be really important. And I think, again, much of the work that I do with leaders is around the leadership challenge. And when we're an established leader, getting feedback is important. But all leaders, if you really want to become a leader, if you want to really grow your leadership mindset, you need to think about how you're going to deal with feedback in the next steps of your leadership journey. So I have found this to be a differentiator between people who are doing a job and people who are really committed to leading. And the people that are really committed to leading have a unique ability to be vulnerable and open to getting more information about themselves and the perceptions that others might have around their leadership styles. The LPI 360 is a remarkable tool for this, and I most recently finished working with a number of leaders who have used this tool to identify what 5 leadership practices they could benefit from growing. And actually, within that group of leaders who's just finishing up their first round of work with me, some of them are brand new to their organization and to the field of nonprofit work, and some of them have been around for a while. Some of them are very good outside their organizations visibly, and some are really trying to grow their leadership capacity. So overall, really understanding and appreciating that you might need feedback to get to the next level of leadership is important for anybody, anywhere in their leadership journey. And I wanted to touch on these topics today because Think Good Leadership is very excited to be launching some new products in June. And in June, we will be launching Synergy Leadership Circles for established leaders and Synergy Leadership Circles for emerging leaders. And we really hope that you'll look into learning more about these circles. They will be virtual circles, which means you can become part of a circle wherever you are. We'll be offering them for a 6-week period of time, actually 6 sessions over 12 weeks. And we're going to keep the price really great, but what we're going to do is invite you into a conversation with other people who are at the same place in their leadership journey, I should say. So we hope you look to that. We're going to be starting to open up registration shortly, and really consider whether you would be most suited for an emerging leader cycle or an established leading cycle and circle. And with that, we'll also be launching a new blog this weekend about the difference between these two areas, and a survey that we'd love to get your feedback on. What kind of offerings would you like us to present to you, whether you're an established or an emerging leader? What are some of the topics you'd like us to anchor these programs around? And so we'll be getting that out to you. Those of us on our mailing list will definitely be getting a questionnaire, a SurveyMonkey, in the next couple of days about this. And again, look for my blog on where you are on your leadership journey. And I'm so excited because it's Friday and the sun is shining, and it's shining into my house and into my office, and my pup back there is loving getting a little sunshine. So I wish that you all have a wonderful weekend, and I hope you go forward with some of your own Think Good thoughts for the day. But thanks so much for joining us here, and look forward to seeing you next week. And we will be in the mode of the Think Good Thursday moving forward. So have a Think Good weekend.